I felt like a bird with clipped wings. I couldn't imagine, what would drive you to do that to someone, to take someone's passion from them. And I was heartbroken. I didn't know how I was going to make any money. This was my only source of income. And at this time, I had probably about $5,000 worth of equipment invested within just the things that were in that truck. And that was pretty much everything.
Austin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate the support to the Moneymalistic channel. Let's get started. How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Great. And where are you from originally?
I'm from Wrangler Ranch, born and raised. I've been here all my life in the town of Sarita.
Nice. What would you describe as your favorite thing in Sarita or Arizona in general?
I'm a photographer and I love everything about Arizona landscapes, the cool, quiet deserts, and just dirt and cactus, things you can really sink your teeth into visually.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a photographer and a filmmaker by trade. I've been doing this for just over 2 years now professionally, 5 years unprofessionally total.
What would you describe as a most challenging thing?
Really the hardest thing or the most challenging thing of freelance photography and filmmaking as a career, it doesn't even lie within the actual aspects of shooting, but it's a pretty inconsistent career field. Even though I might make a lot of money on one shoot and a little money on the next, I never really know when I'm going to get the shoots or when the money's coming. So it's a little hard to expect money or when to expect money.
So there's like a lot of uncertainty pretty much.
Absolutely. This is a really uncertain career field. To do this not only professionally, but freelance professionally.
What is your favorite thing about it?
I'm a huge sucker for great storytelling. From a really young age, I've always loved movies that just really dig into the human condition and make you feel. And that's my biggest goal as a creator, is really just to tell stories that make people feel. I want to make people cry and I want to make people laugh and really show off what it means to be human.
Do you have a favorite movie?
That's a great question.
Or do you have multiple?
I definitely have a top 10, but recently I've been watching Disney's Tarzan a lot. I just think it's so awesome, the story of, I think what I really like about that movie is just the themes of taking care of your family and rising up to the occasion and all of those traits that, he has to possess, even though he's growing up from a place that doesn't really make sense to him. And, he doesn't have anyone around him who's similar to him, really.
Oh yeah, that's really good. I really like Tarzan. I actually watch it.
I love that movie. Rewatch it. Really good.
I'll rewatch it. What social class were you growing up?
Growing up, we were definitely in the lower class.
Do you recall any challenges that you had growing up in general?
One of the things that was really challenging for me was not asking for lavish things or for things that, weren't necessity when I was a kid. And the reason I say that is because I learned from my sisters, that we didn't really have a lot of money because they wouldn't ask for things. So if there was something that I wanted that wasn't a necessity, like food or water or, specific necessities, it was something that I had to go out and manage to take care of myself.
Well, at what age did you start working?
I was always making money from different spots all over, growing up, just simple jobs, yard work, or, hey, can you come help me with this job or this job? But I got my first job when I was 16. I got my first truck, and my grandpa at the time had given me $50. And he said, this is all you're going to get. So you need to, it's on you, really. So I took that $50 and I went, and the first thing I did is I bought a phone card to get a phone, and I made a couple calls, and I ended up landing a job doing concrete work for a residential house. And it was, at the time, minimum wage was $12 an hour, and I was making $8 an hour for what was, at the time, really intense labor. I mean, you're talking just back-breaking work out in the sun.
That's why you're in such a great shape. Would your family talk about money?
Absolutely, yeah. My grandpa talked a lot about money because he was really the main breadwinner in the family. He would drop little tidbits of wisdom here and there, financial advice, but that was just about it.
Is there any financial wisdom that you recall from him?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one of the biggest things that I learned from him was, and this affects me now even, but he would always say that you shouldn't be spending money on things that you can't make money off of. And at the time, it could have been something like a truck that I could use for work, or, if I wanted something nice, I shouldn't have bought it unless, I could make a profit off of it, flip it, or use it to do more work, stuff like that. So buying things that weren't necessity or couldn't make me money was definitely something that was looked down upon a lot. That was the biggest thing. And another thing I remember is he would always tell me not to popcorn my money off. And at the time, it was really influential to me because it was like, hey, don't go to town and, go to McDonald's and buy this and then go out with your friends and, buy some candy and buy a soda, Because I was really conscious of hey, I can't spend this big amount of money because I only have, so and so much. But I wasn't really thinking of, I can drop, a little money on this and a little money on this and a little money on this. And it all added up so quick.
Yeah. Wow. Definitely, he has been a big influence in the way that you see money and overall for your entire financial literacy then.
Absolutely. I think if any of the financial advice that I've gotten is pretty much from him.
Do you recall your first interaction with money?
The first time I remember seeing money work in my life was when we would go out to eat at KFC. And I know that sounds funny, but we would always eat at home and we never really had real good food. It was just, what like Great Value brand or, just necessities. And then we would try to make something out of that, right? But whenever we got the chance to go to KFC, that meant that money was going good and that, we were doing really prosperous. And so even now going to KFC, I still get just flooded with those memories of prosperity times.
So that was like your initial understanding of things are going good, things are going bad, but just going to the restaurant, man, that's really, really interesting.
Thank you.
Now you mentioned Great Value. There's nothing wrong about Great Value. It has really good products, but I understand. I know what you were trying to touch there. What is the best financial advice you have ever received and who gave you that advice?
I remember this quote from Jay-Z where he said, "You can't afford to buy something unless you can buy it twice." And that really stuck with me. And it makes sense, right? You shouldn't be spending all your money and not paying attention to what could happen in the future. Not having a savings, not having enough money to back up your purchases. It's like, hey, you might have enough money to buy this specific thing, but, after you buy it and the joy leaves, what do you have left really?
Oh yeah, really good advice. I mean, do you recall where you got it from? Is it on I have not heard enough of his music or watch any documentaries. Was it like a post? Was it a video, a song? Where did you get that?
So I'm pretty sure I was just scrolling through Instagram and I found that on an Instagram post. So the idea that Jay-Z could have not even said that is very possible.
But still, it stuck with you. So
absolutely,
it really touched you in a way. That's really good. Any other good financial advice you've received?
My grandpa always really encouraged savings, and something I would say is a really big, important piece of advice, financially, was just that you can't predict the future. So what that means to me is that you can't predict emergencies, right? You should always have savings just in case, hey, something unexpected, something terrible, like God forbid, maybe a loved one dies, or, you have an automotive emergency, something along those lines. And you don't have any money in the bank or you don't have any money in your pocket, it's not a good place to be. I mean, I've seen myself, sitting on the side of the road, with no help, no money in my pocket. You can't call a tow truck, if you don't have money, right? So now you're just stuck out there, and, you know, you better pray to God that you have some good friends, you know, who will lend you some money or who will come pick you up, and, you know, and you could say, hey, I owe you one. Or, you know, even better if you have friends who will be there for you and say, hey, you know, we'll spot you on this one.
On the other side of the spectrum, what is the worst financial advice you have ever received, and who gave you that advice?
The worst financial advice that I've ever received was actually from someone who's really close to me. It's from my sister. My sister is my biggest fan, I would say, when it comes to my job, but also my biggest critic. When times are going really well, she'll say, hey, you know, I'm so proud of you, and, you know, you're the best fit for this, and, you know, I couldn't imagine you doing anything else. But there have been times where she's given me this advice, and she'll say, hey, you know, times aren't going so well, you know, you're not getting a lot of jobs. Don't you think that it's time to sell all your equipment and, you know, maybe get a real job? And I mean, that hurts, man, to hear something like that, really, like, especially coming from someone who's really close to you. And I understand that it's all coming from a place of love, but I think that that's terrible advice. I wouldn't want to do anything else, and I haven't made more money off of anything than I have off of filmmaking. And I'm just incredibly satisfied with what I've gotten out of that equipment.
Has it ever crossed your mind to actually hang the towel?
I would say I think about it every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The thought always runs across my mind, like, to sell all my equipment and, you know, get a real job. It's scary what I do, to me. I never know, hey, you know, maybe 1 month you're not going to get any jobs, or, you know, maybe this client that you've had for so long is just going to one day up and, you know, not be there. So it's really tough, but it comes with such a level of freedom, and with that comes a lot of responsibility, but I absolutely love it. I mean, it's really difficult to not know when money's going to come next, but it's a risk that I'm willing to take.
What keeps you going? What is that internal or even external motivation?
It was the same when I began as it is now, and that's always just going to be freedom. I don't like people watching over my shoulder what I'm doing. I don't like having someone to sit there and say, hey, do this, do that. I never liked having a boss. And as much as a lot of people say, like, oh, you know, I have a hard time with authority, it's very prevalent in my life to have a hard time with authority. I'm a very independent person, and that's definitely gotten me in some bad spots financially. Situations where even though I was really low on money, I wouldn't work with a specific client because, you know, I didn't like their values, or I didn't want to sell my soul for something that, you know, they would pay me for in a video. Things like that. And just to be able to, like, be my own boss and say, no, I don't want to do that. That's what keeps me going. That's what makes me want to do this.
That's great. Actually, you know, saying no is very powerful. Not a lot of people can do it. And I mean, you at the age of 20, knowing that gives you a lot of power. That's really good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
What is the best financial decision you have ever made?
Along with the last questions, I would have to say that the best financial decision I've ever made was actually quitting my job. That's when I was working as a maintenance man for a large warehouse. I was at a time in my life where I was watching a lot of media that is talking about the same things that I was talking about now, right? Just having this independence and this freedom from, you know, like a traditional 9 to 5, or what a lot of people like would say is like, hey, like, you know, you need to get out of the rat race. I was watching a lot of media at the time that was pushing me towards the edge, and I was always really into filmmaking. And at the time I hated photography, but I was really into filmmaking. And I decided that, hey, I really want to save up some money just so I can buy a camera and buy a tripod and buy the necessities that I need to get started and just send it completely. So I saved up about $1,000 and I quit my job then and there, which in retrospect totally risky. But I was at a time in my life where I needed to do it. And I'm so glad that I made that choice.
You got into like a breaking point that you're like, this is it. I need a change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally breaking point. I remember, and this is funny, but I would always listen to music on the job, right? And one of the most listened to songs that I would listen to when I was working was Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash. And if you guys are, sorry, I don't know if I should say you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you guys listen to Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues is just a really poetic song about his time in the prison. And he would always see this train pass, and he would just dream of what his life would be like, you know, if he wasn't stuck in that prison. And I just related that to myself working at this job. And I would even see this train that would pass by my job every day. And I would listen to this song, and I would just think every day, man, what if I just hop that fence? I just hop on and, you know, I just chase my dreams and I never come back, you know. And I think that's what filmmaking has been for me. Filmmaking and photography was my train, and it's taken me to places that I couldn't even imagine.
Keep writing it. I mean, sometimes you thought about like, you know, jumping away from it, right? I mean, when you first got this job, you wanted to jump into it. Right. Now you want to jump out of it. So staying there, staying for the long term, for the long, long ride. How much money, I mean, you had an initial investment of $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you think that you've made? Let's just say that not throughout, you know, the entire 3 years, but on a good year doing photography.
Good year. Anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000.
Do you have any other good purchase or good financial decision?
Sometimes I don't think that, you know, I have a lot of money, but then I think that most of my money is really tied into possessions, right? So right now, I've got an older travel trailer. I've got, you know, a 78 Ford pickup. I've got, you know, an old school motorcycle. Things that I think are really good. I've got my camera lenses. I think, and these things I think are good financial decisions because none of the stuff depreciates. It's all old already. The time you buy it, it's going to be the same, if not more expensive, by the time you're getting ready to sell it. And they've all provided me so much use. I mean, obviously you can imagine just a place to live, but, you know, the truck, getting me back and forth to work, the bike has been just huge. Same thing, getting back and forth to work. It's so good on gas and it's just enjoyable. Like everything like that. The lenses have been awesome. You know, you can imagine I directly use those for work. And I think those are the best things that's the best financial decisions I've made.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, you did mention before that you wanted to get land and you already have it. So you've definitely, you know, taken that initiative and then you just continue to build from there.
Right. Yeah, so I'm renting land, which has been my dream for the longest time, ever since I left home. So like I mentioned, I was born and raised in Wrangler Ranch, Cerrito. So real rural area. I grew up on a cattle ranch out there. And unfortunately, I had to leave and bounced around in the city for about 2 years. And every single day, I just wanted to get back to what I had out there. So I just wanted land and I wanted to be out there and I wanted to go pee outside in the front yard and nobody yell at me, you know what I mean?
That's the first one. Oh, you really enjoy that freedom. I like that about you. It's more about being outdoors. Not saying that you don't want to follow the rules, but I guess we could say that you're a free spirit.
Free spirit, thank you. I'll take that.
You kind of like carry yourself. I like it. I really like it.
That means a lot to me. I really appreciate like hearing that.
And I hope that I'm not the only one that says that because I really mean it.
Thank you.
So, now, what is the worst financial decision you've ever made?
Worst financial decision I ever made? About this time a year ago, I got a call from my sister to go out to dinner. And I wish I never went out to dinner with my sister that day. That night, one of the most heartbreaking things in my life, I would say top 10 most heartbreaking things in my life, happened. I was doing a photo shoot and I had all my lights and all my camera equipment. My sister calls me. She says, hey, we'd like to go out to dinner. Please come and join us. And, that sounds awesome, right? Like, go get to spend some time with my family. Go get a nice dinner. So at the time, they were in between houses, so they were staying at a hotel. And this is in a pretty bad area of town. So I drove my truck over to the hotel, made sure I locked my truck, everything, went out to dinner, had a nice dinner. And we were driving back and I made a joke, I said like, hey, could you imagine if we got there and my truck was gone? And we pull into the parking lot and a sigh of relief hit my heart because my truck was there. But I looked closer and my toolbox was gone from my truck. I got close to the truck and I realized that all of my lights, my camera, all my equipment, cables, accessories, lenses, and all my tools from the toolbox had all been stolen. We had asked the owner of the hotel, hey, do you have any footage of what had happened? And they weren't rolling cameras. And I was just heartbroken, dude. I felt like a bird with clipped wings. I couldn't imagine, what would drive you to do that to someone, to take someone's passion from them. And I was heartbroken. I didn't know how I was going to make any money. This was my only source of income. And at this time, I had probably about $5,000 worth of equipment invested within just the things that were in that truck. And that was pretty much everything. So I really had nothing. That's how it felt in the moment. I felt like I had nothing because pretty much the most important thing to me, right? Besides having a livelihood, but this was my dream and still is to this day, to pursue filmmaking and photography and create art and, express myself and the emotions of other people through this medium. And that was just taken from me. So the first thing I actually did was I went ahead and I thought, hey, maybe like I could start like some sort of fundraiser, maybe get like $75, $100, just to add to, something that I can put towards the stuff that was lost. And so I made a short video on my phone and I said, hey, everyone, and this was for my hometown, right? I said, hey, everyone, unfortunately, all my stuff was stolen. I don't have any money to replace it. Is there any way you guys could help me? And I was met with absolutely outpouring support from these people, from family members, people who changed my diapers, and just random members of the community. I got messages from people I didn't even know saying, hey, hang in there. Like, it's a pleasure to serve someone who's a member of the community. And if you've ever felt the kindness of someone who's never even met you, that's just an unreal feeling. To know compassion from a complete stranger. And local businesses started fundraisers for me. And I ended up making over $2,000 from just the help of the community within 7 days.
So you were pretty much able to get the majority of your equipment back.
Absolutely.
And then after that, how long did it take you to get the remainder?
Well, there's little things that, you don't really remember, when it's taken. Like, oh, this little cable that I needed, to connect from here to here, that was taken. And I didn't think about it because first thing I noticed, hey, the camera's gone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Within a couple months, that's the good thing I like about my job is because it's such an investment, you can charge so much for it. And people are willing to pay because not only am I a professional and I love what I do and I have a lot of experience, but I've also spent a lot of money and time to get where I am.
Yeah. It's all an investment. You're investing it in yourself.
Absolutely.
So any other worst financial decision?
I made a bad deal one time on an old chopper, old motorcycle. And what had happened was I had a motorcycle and I loved it. This was my first motorcycle. And I was going down the freeway, just happy as can be. Boom. It just blows up in the middle of the freeway. Engine was just completely just crunched to bits. And at the time, my truck was also broken down. So I had no mode of transportation. But I'm a pretty handy guy. And I saw this bike on Craigslist that night. And it said, you know, hey, this is a great bike. It just needs a little carburetor work. So I figured, hey, you know, like, big deal. You know, at most, it's going to cost me like $50 to $100. And what, like, we'll be out the door. And I thought the bike looked cool too. I think that was a big like selling point for me. I was like, oh man, this thing is smooth and it sounds nice. I showed up, I met the guy, gave him the money, took it home. Terrible mistake. That bike was in so many different shops and work areas. Just over the course of a year, I got this non-running bike to, at the end of the year, also not having a non-running bike, but also being down over $2,000 worth of money that I spent on parts, equipment, diagnosis, diagnostic fees, you know, just stuff like that from different mechanics, from me buying parts that I think the bike needs and it doesn't need them. And it was just a monster of something to buy. And I ended up selling it for $1,000 and really lost a lot of money on that.
Yeah. I mean, you said you bought it for $1,700?
Yes.
And then around $2,000 spent for over a year. Over 2,000. I just, you know, keep it as a baseline, 2,000.
Right.
So 3,700. You sold it for 1,000. Man, $2,700 down. Yeah, I mean, it'll come back, you know, one way or another.
Right.
So, how would you describe your relationship with money?
My relationship with money has been really bittersweet.
Why is that?
I mentioned earlier in the interview that I grew up lower class, so we never really had a lot of money. And I went to a school here in town where most of the folks came from an area that did have a lot of money. And sometimes I would come to school with dirty clothes or, you know, just all the ailments that poverty could really strike you with. And kids are mean, man. Kids are ruthless. So at a time when I didn't really know what confidence was, I didn't like those people. And I knew that those people had money, so I started to hate money. I never wanted to be a really rich person financially. I wanted to be rich, but not with money. And now I also hate not having money, because there's been times where, you know, filmmaking hasn't been the greatest and, you know, I need to support myself. So I don't have enough money for food, and it sucks not having enough money for food. That is one of the most like heartbreaking things, like just to be in that position, not even physically, like hunger sucks, but to mentally be like, hey, I'm hungry because I can't get enough money for food. That sucks. To a point where I would sit outside of the food city off of, you know, Flowing Wells, and I would just show up in dirty clothes and I have to play guitar outside the food city to get change from people who would walk in, just to make, you know, an extra however much money, you know, I made to get food, to get necessities, to get water, stuff like that. So I don't know. I've been on both sides. You know, I hate money. I hate not having money. So either way, it's been pretty bittersweet.
I know this is probably going to be like a little bit of a dumb question, but are you comfortable with your current financial situation?
I don't think I'll ever be comfortable with my financial situation, whether that's now or whether that's in 10 years. Right now, for example, I think I'm still stuck in the mindset of not having enough money because all my bills are paid for this month and for the next month. And still, I'm constantly stressing and I'm worried, oh no, I'm not going to have enough money. I've moved 7 times in the past 2 years because of just this or that, or like, hey, I didn't have enough money and something bad happened. I got to go crash on your couch. I'm finally at a point in my life where like I'm making enough money and it's consistent. And I still have these feelings of stress, even though I'm paid out for the next, 2 months on my rent and 2 months on, my truck. It's like, I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable because of, and this is at the risk of sounding ignorant, but because of the financial struggles that I've faced, I don't think that I'll ever really feel like I have enough to be safe. I'm always going to feel on edge, I think.
Even like, let's say that you get hired by a big production company and then they offer you, I don't know, let's just, for the sake of the argument, they sign you for $1 million,
Right.
and you actually get to keep, even after taxes and everything, you have, the $1 million. You would still not feel comfortable?
I don't think I would.
Why would that be the case? I mean, it's so much money in a way, but why wouldn't that be the case?
More money, more problems. I think that when I get that money, it's going to be like, hey, spend this portion on a house and spend this portion on more equipment to further your business, and more for this and more for this. And with those added expenses come like, hey, you need to pay this tax or you need to pay this. And even though I'm at a higher level, I guess you'd say a higher level financially, I have a higher end house, or, I have a better car, the expenses on those are going to be more expensive. And even if I'm good with that $1 million, let's say I'm like, hey, I'm paid for the next 20 years. I think my thought process is always going to be, oh man, like I only have 20 years to, get my next month's rent. You know what I mean? Or I only have 20 years to come up with the money for the property taxes, Even though, that 20 years will be paid, I think I'll always be stressing of like what comes next.
If you could go back in time and change one financial decision, which one would it be and why?
Wouldn't change anything.
Nothing at all. Why?
There's things that I don't like about myself or that I don't like about my life currently. But I think that I'm emotionally mature enough to accept who I am and be proud of the mistakes that I've made because of who they've made me. And I'm really happy with who I am. Even though, like I mentioned, maybe I'm not the most perfect person, I'm happy with my life and I'm happy with the person that I am because of those mistakes that I made and because of the things that I've had to overcome within those mistakes. And if I hadn't made those mistakes, when I did, I'm just going to make them in the future. And who knows, maybe I'll have, maybe the mistakes will be worse because of what I have in the future. Like for example, you go bankrupt when you're living with your parents, right? And it's like, big deal, I have a support system versus, hey, I don't have any money and I have to support a business and, pay for my house and feed my family. I'm glad that I made those mistakes then. So maybe, hopefully, I won't have to repeat them because I'll be smarter and wiser.
Good. All right, we're going to go over our first section called Would You Rather. I'm going to give you this container. You're going to go ahead and grab 5 pieces of paper, one at a time. Once you pull it, please just show the number to the camera and I'll ask you a question.
Sweet.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Should I pull them? Okay.
Just one at a time.
Yeah. One at a time. Okay.
Seven. Auston, would you rather never have to worry about money again or never have to worry about your health again?
Money or health? That's tough because I guess eventually you'd always have to worry about your health because you'd die. No, yeah, I would never want to worry about my health. I get like a cold and I'm like, I start freaking out, man. I'm like, oh, this is the end for me. And, what have I done with my life? And I'll be laid up in bed, just, pitying myself. And I couldn't imagine if something terrible happened, and I got, God forbid, cancer, or I lose a limb, or, I lose my sight, and, I can't do what I love anymore. So money comes and goes, but I don't think I'd risk my health like that.
Good. Let's go with the second one. What do you got? Let's see. What's the number?
26.
26. Would you rather have a bank account for every single financial goal or have one bank account that holds everything?
Oh, yeah. I think I would much rather have several bank accounts. Currently, I only have two. I have a savings and I have a checking. But I think I'd much rather have a lot of accounts. I think the reason I don't is because just the way that my bank is set up, I think you might have to fill out some extra paperwork or something. And I don't know, I just never really got around to it. But in my life, I struggle a lot with being unorganized, and it brings me a lot of stress, really. And I feel like having those extra accounts would really do me justice. And, I'd have less to worry about because, hey, it's all taken care of. But even though I'm not changing my choice and I would still choose to have those extra accounts, I feel like maybe it might even bring me more stress because, I'm out of money here. What am I going to do? Like, I don't have any in the emergency fund, but hey, like that nice car fund is looking pretty good.
You would always just grab from the others,
Probably.
All right, let's go with the third one.
19.
19. Oh, this one is really good. Would you rather donate your time or donate your money?
This is something that I actually get often. So I'm not a big breadwinner. I don't make a whole lot of money. But I would like to be thoroughly used up when I die. I want to have calloused hands, and I just want to, like, by the time I die, I want there to be nothing left of me because I gave everything that I had to the community and to those around me. So if there's something I can give, it's time. Whether that's to a family member to help, labor, or, to sit with a friend and say, hey, what's wrong? How can I help you? I think that my purpose in life is really to be there, not for selfish reasons, but to be of use to everyone.
All right, let's go with the fourth one. Okay.
12.
That's a 21, right?
Oh. All right, 21. This is why I'm bad with money.
Okay. I didn't want to contradict you, but I saw it and I'm like, they're probably gonna say something.
No.
So I like this question. It's gonna be great for you. I really want to see what you think about it. Would you rather receive your whole pay for the year at once or get paid bi-weekly?
That's a great question. Totally bi-weekly. I have a hard time with rushing things when I already have the money. And that's why in my work, I get 50% in advance and I get 50% when I finish the job. I set it up not even really for the client, but more so for myself. When I know that there's something to chase at the end of the finish line, I work harder and, I make sure that I can provide that extra bit of quality for my clients. Whereas if I got all the money for the year, who knows, what kind of quality I'd be putting out, because it's like, hey, I already got the money, maybe I don't have to work so hard. Or maybe, even though the client won't think that it's terrible and I could get away with it, I'm still going to do some mediocre work. And I just don't think that that's just or right for the people who are paying.
All right. Fair. Let's go with the fifth one, the last one.
Sweet. 14.
Would you rather earn millions creating a cure for a disease that only saves 1,000 people, or earn no money creating a cure for a disease that saves 5 million people?
Oh yeah, no money. Easy. no money. And I just think that that's really the right thing to do. I don't think I could, like, it would sit well with my conscience. Even if it was like, hey, 5 million people and, you know, every single one knows that I did it. It's like, I would want to do it because it's the right thing to do. You know, even if I wanted the money, it's like, I know I would have to live with that for the rest of my life. And it seems kind of simple, but if you really think into it, like, illness is a terrible thing in the way that it affects people. And I couldn't look at maybe a small child who dies, or, you know, a single mother of 5 who leaves her children with no parents, knowing that I could have done something to stop that. I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
Great answer, man. Now we're going to go over the second segment or section. This one we call it, what do you think? This one is more about opinions and thoughts on money. So same activity. When you're ready, go ahead and pull one piece of paper. We'll do 5 questions.
Sweet. Number 11.
Number 11. What do you think? What are the top 3 financial goals that everyone should have?
I'm not coming from the place of a financial expert, but I would say a safety net for money, a big amount of savings that you can fall back on if something terrible happens. Pay off your house. Invest in things that don't decrease in value.
All right. I like that you're speaking from experience, you know, that's kind of like your perception.
Right.
I really like to say, and I think that I cannot stress this enough. There is no right or wrong answer. So whatever you feel that it's right, please, you know, there's no judgment.
Perfect.
So,
All right.
all right, let's go over the second one.
24.
24. What do you think? Should we all have a financial advisor in order to have a better understanding of our money?
Do I think we should? Yes, but I really don't think that it's realistic for everyone to have a financial advisor. And that's not even to say that I'm really experienced on, you know, what a financial advisor charges. But for example, my grandpa didn't make a lot of money. He sold and broke horses, you know, pretty much his entire life. And we barely had enough to break even. And to add someone in the mix to say like, hey, you should be doing this or you should be doing that, when it's like all the money that you already have is going to things that are specifically necessity, I just don't think it's realistic.
Let's go over the third one.
25.
25. What does the term rat race mean to you? What do you think about
the rat race? Okay. When I think of rat race, I just think of, 9 to 5, boss peering over your shoulder all the time, just being stuck in like, I guess, kind of a corporate money-making system, really. And I faced that a lot when I was working jobs that aren't the job that I have now. I think the biggest heartbreak for me was seeing my labor go to something that I didn't care about. At the end of the day, I go home with the money, but a great thing that I love about my job now, it's like when I take a picture, when I make a video, I make the money off of that, and then I also have something that like a piece of art, and I can say, hey, I made that, and that meant something to me. The money is a byproduct. I would do this if I wasn't making any money, but nice to have money.
Definitely. All right, let's go with the fourth one.
16.
16. What do you think, Auston? What is the best way to invest your money?
There might be two good options when it comes to investing money. So that would be putting money into non-depreciating things that serve you, and possibly investing in the stock market. But I don't know about any of that stuff.
All right, pretty good. I'd say really, really good answers. All right, let's go with the final one.
27.
27. What is the most common financial mistake you see people make?
I've never had a credit card, but I know a lot of people that have really, really poor credit because they spend money on things that they can't get back. A lot of money that they can't get back. So although I can't speak from specific experience with a credit card, I think it's a really bad mistake to buy things on a credit card that you aren't sure, absolutely 100% sure, that you'll be able to pay off at the end of the month or whenever you pay off your credit card.
Do you have a plan to have a credit card down the road, or you'll remain with your debt?
If it was possible, I would just pay for everything in cash, really. I would love to, like save up a lot of money and buy a house in cash, but I'm not really sure that that's realistic. I don't think that's realistic at all. If I do get a credit card, and I'm sure I will, it will be purely out of necessity. And I think credit is something that I wish I got on sooner, and I'm really not knowledgeable about. And I think it's something that's important, and it's something that I honestly think about really often. And I'm kind of worried about, what's going to happen down the road when I try to buy a house and, I need to make payments. I think a big reason I haven't gotten into getting a credit card either is because I'm not sure how it would work with my job. Maybe I'm asking the wrong questions, but I'm not sure how credit works when you're a freelancer, or how willing credit card companies are to give you a credit card when you're a freelancer.
Finally, to wrap it all up, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Do you have any final thoughts?
Don't be afraid to give when it comes to money. If you see, that homeless person, or, someone in your family reaches out and they say, hey, can I have a loan? I think that that's something that's always going to come back to you. I think it's important to be there for people when you can, because what happens when, you need something, you need some help, because we've all been there. We all need help. And I wouldn't want to be the person that never helped anybody when it's time that I need help.
Excellent. Auston, thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate it, man.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please support the channel by subscribing, commenting, and liking the video. The question of the day is the following. Let me know your opinions, thoughts, comments, and constructive criticism in the comment section, and I will see you guys on the next video.